Okay, so now we are beginning with the control process. So what is the control process? As we have discussed that it's a three-step process of measuring actual performance. This is the step number one, that we have to measure our actual performance. Step number two is that we have to compare then actual performance against a standard. What does it means? That what we have executed and what was the standard that we were looking forward to have. Okay, so this makes step number two. And the last step is to take managerial action to correct deviation or inadequate standards. So we have to make sure that whether we have to make some corrective action, we have to take some sort of correction, or we have to revise our standard. So it would be the step number three. Let me show you with the help of a diagram. So this is what I was talking about. Step number one, which leads us to actual performance measurement, and then step number two comes here, where we have to compare actual performance against the standard. Alright, and then eventually the last step, which is taking managerial action. In the middle of the diagram or this flow chart, you can see that it's written goals and objectives. Now the goals and objective can be on organizational level, can be of divisional level, can be of departmental level, or can be the control of individual level. So now let's start with the step number one. In detail, we are going to discuss that how we ensure the measurement of the actual performance. What are those tools which help us in measuring the performance? So how we measure? We measure with the help of personal observations. We are going to discuss for sure in detail as well. And then statistical reports. Then we have oral reports and written reports. Why we measure? What is measured is probably more critical to the control process than how it is measured. Obviously, we are looking forward to see whether we are on track or not, whether we are performing right activities, we are leading towards our defined organizational goals or not. So that's why this becomes highly critical, that what is measured, what we are looking forward to measure, then how we are measuring it. Obviously we are having certain tools, so it depends on us that what we are going to use in which situation, but exactly what matters a lot is what we are measuring. We have to be very sure on those activities that we are measuring. So this is the exhibit 18-3, which shows us the sources of information for measuring performance. Number one is, as we have discussed earlier, personal observation. Now what does personal observation means? It's we use personal observation because for getting first hand knowledge, information is not filtered, intensive coverage of work activities is done. It means that a person or a team is looking forward personally, they are observing from their own that how they have to make sure that activities are going as per the standard or not. So these are the benefits that we gain from personal observation, and what are the major drawbacks? Subject to personal biases. Obviously when a person or somebody is going to observe and the control is totally lying over the personal observation, so it comes the personal bias as well, and definitely some favoritism issues can also arise due to this personal observation thing. It's obviously very time consuming if we talk about larger organization which are having plenty of employees working. So it's very difficult to do personal observation there. There are so many departments, there are so many of work activities going on, that how personal observation can be fruitful in this case, it's very difficult. All right, and then we are having a statistical reports. Statistical report is calculative based reports that are developed to say where we are heading towards, what is the current performance of the workforce or the departments, etc., etc. So the benefit is to easy to visualize. It's easy to see that where we are headed towards, and statistics makes things easy. It's a logical report, so we can see that if we were looking forward for example 50% of the profit, and we have gained 30% of the profit in actual, so where we are lacking, it becomes easy in terms of mathematics. Then it's effective for showing relationships. Obviously it's easy to make sense out of the data if it's in calculative form, so we can make sense and we can see that how things went. But the drawbacks are that it actually provide limited information, and ignore subjective factors. Now, what does it mean that it ignores subjective factors? See, only logics, only calculations cannot show those factors which were actually influencing a performance. For example, surrounding factors or harassment factors, any factor due to which an employee was unable to perform his task or her task. So, that are subjective factors which cannot be seen through this statistical report. Then we are having oral reports. It's the fastest way to get information, allow for verbal and non-verbal feedback. But what are the drawbacks? Information is filtered. Information can't be documented. Oral reports are like we are taking interviews from the employees. We are going towards verbal communication. So obviously it gets difficult to document those information. Then we are having written reports. Written reports is like the annual reports as well, or semi-annual reports as well, that organization establish. So the benefits it is that it's comprehensive. It's quite detailed, have in-depth crux of things so that we can make a better sense of things. It's formal. It's written like very. It's quite a formal report in which things are written quite smoothly, and it's easy to file and retrieve, as we can make backup of it, and we can also have hard copy of it. It's not difficult to carry this report. But the major drawback is it take more time to prepare. It's not easy to make such comprehensive reports. It's utilize great amount of time. So things the thing that I'm trying to explain is that we are having many sources of collecting information for measuring performance, but things come with the benefits and drawbacks. It depends on us that which situation we are facing and what we think that which of the source will be helpful in certain situation. Okay, then we are having step number two, which is comparing actual performance against the standard. Now we are doing the comparison. What does it mean? It means that we are going to determine the degree of variation. Variation, we can also say in simpler terms, the fluctuation or the difference that we are observing between the actual performance and the standard. We are going to look after that difference. What does range of variation means? It's the acceptable parameter of variance between actual performance and the standard. It means that how much variation is was acceptable, how much we can deviate from the standard, what is the acceptable limitation. All of those things becomes the part of range of variation. So for making this comparison easy, we are here with the exhibit 18-5. It's a green earth gardening supply June sales report. Right, now let's just randomly pick some product. For example, herbs. The standard of producing was 160. Of supply we are talking about the sales. Okay, so standard was to sell 160, and in actual we come up with 140. It means that we are under 20. We are in loss, some sort of, we can see here. uh, Similarly, if we talk about annual flowers, so standard was 800, and in actual we sell 912, so we went in surplus. So that's how the comparison are ensured, that what was the standard, what was the, and what is actually achieved, and then we have to see that we are over or we are in under capacity. Then we are having step number 3, which is taking managerial action. If we are facing some trouble, if we have noticed that we are not on track, then we have to make some managerial action. We have to ensure that we come up with some plan, with some action, so we get back towards our own track that we were with. So now managerial actions are of two types. Number one is immediate corrective action. uh, if we discuss what is immediate corrective action, it is the action that corrects problem at once in order to get performance back on track. Right, it means that if we are with certain problem and we have to immediately resolve that issue with no other plans in mind, and no other, we cannot afford to have any delay in that situation. Maybe it could be so critical, so we have to take immediate corrective action. We have to manage anyhow by taking corrective action immediately, or else we have to go towards basic corrective action, the action that looks at how and why performance deviated before correcting the source of deviation. So it is time consuming. Actually, you look forward for example, that if a product is unable to be sold in the market. So maybe the performance was not up to the mark of marketing department, that they did not market that product well. But to ensure this, to get into the detail that marketing department was not performing well, we have to take basic corrective action. Basic. You have to check all of the departments, everything. You have to ensure, you have to see from the beginning that where the problem occurs. So it's the basic corrective action process. Or else we have one more step in step number 3, that is revise the standard. If performance consistently exceeds the goal, for example, if we are performing very well, then a manager should look at whether the goal is too easy and needs to be raised. Because see, whenever a goal is set, it is set with a stretch, right? For example, that we if we think that we have to do this task, so we actually give little tough time in that plan, that we have to at least exceed much of this. So if things are quite easily achievable, so it means that the goal is not that, I mean, it's not of that level. It is needed to be raised or needed to be revised. Manager must be cautious about revising a standard downward. If you are going towards making a standard down, then obviously it's a risk, because you are going to change the whole mechanism. And definitely you should be very sure of that what circumstances you can bear if you face any trouble. So that's why it's very cautious step, that you need to be very assertive while doing this, very cautious while doing this.